Welcome back to GP Outdoors. Negative 20 Celsius tonight. A number of you folks over the last few years often ask us, just how dry is the firewood in this shed? And are we burning a little bit of wet wood? And well, we might be. But today we're going to find out. A company named TOPTES sent me their moisture meter. It's a pin type. It's their model TS-630. And we're going to test it out today just to see how accurate it is. And I know what you're thinking. Another moisture meter YouTube video? This one's going to be a little different. We have 3 different meters to test against. This TOPTES seems to have a little more design or maybe a little more smarts to it than the other 2 we have. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the functionality on this TS-630. We're going to grab some random sticks off the pile and we're going to head inside. We're going to take all 3 moisture meters, put them together on each stick, and let's see what the performance looks like. Basswood. That's elm. Oak, maple, and a little bit of ash. What I tend to find a little difficult when I tried to find my first moisture meter a couple of years ago is there are dozens of different brands and makes, different sizes, different shapes, different screens. Some of them tell you tolerances or accuracy, some of them don't. And they range anywhere from about $20 Canadian up to about $120 Canadian. There was one moisture meter I found that was almost $600 Canadian. That one is clearly pretty well engineered and probably meant for bigger purposes than me just checking the moisture in the firewood here behind me. So like a lot of other products you buy, you spend a lot of time looking over the reviews, whether it's online, on their own website, on Amazon, and they're all conflicting. Every moisture meter you find between $20 and $100 is going to have some comments that'll tell you it's the best, most accurate meter somebody's ever bought. And then there's going to be opposing comments that tell you that, you know, it's 5% off or 2% off, or it's not as accurate as expected, or the pins break. They all pretty much say the same thing. All of them have 4 to 5 stars. So it makes it a little bit hard to try to figure out if you're going to get an actual accurate meter out of it. So hopefully, now that we have 3 different makes and brands of moisture meters to test on each stick, it should give us some interesting results. Good morning, guy. Brought you some more firewood.
Good morning. Wait a minute.
Does it look familiar?
It looks kind of familiar.
I didn't say I brought you more firewood. I just brought your own inside. Let me go get the rest. So our 3 contenders today. This is yours. You've had for a number of years. It's made by a Canadian company. It's called Comparative. I just looked it up yesterday. $99.99.
Ow. I spent that much money.
There you go. The one I bought a couple of years back is from a company called Dr. Moisture. Comes in a nice, pretty bag. This one is kind of low tech though. It doesn't really have a lot of functionality other than the fact that you take it in, you're supposed to stick it in the wood, turn it on, and it'll tell you the moisture. It does have a hold function, and this was about $22 on Amazon. Mm-hmm. So this new one, it's just the TS-630 by TOPTES. This seems to have a little more to it. Much more beefier user manual, easy to read, but I've noticed that this unit has a number of different functionalities that come with it, including the fact that it has a number of different modes or settings because it'll measure moisture in concrete, building materials, dimensional lumber, and it also has a couple of settings for different types of trees or wood. And in addition to that, it comes with a big table in the back that lists up a whole bunch of other different species of wood. And based on the species you're using, you just set the mode to the right setting and then go in for your moisture. The TOPTES is going to run you about $29 on Amazon. This Dr. meter, the simple one, was $22 and change. And I know that yours is $99.99. So I thought we'll take each piece of wood one at a time. We'll put all 3 of them on there and see how they perform and see if they actually add up.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. Let's do it.
So the first one is maple, right?
You bet. So let's take our Dr. meter. We're going to turn it on. There we go. She's zeroed. Let's stick that in there. Now we're going to turn on our TOPTES. One feature I really love about this is that between certain percentages, this screen will turn green if it's dry. If it's moderate, it'll turn yellow. And if it's over, I think 25%, it turns red. So it's an instant visual. Let's stick her in and see. I've got her in Celsius, and we're good to go. Okay, so you're at 22%. The top TES is 23, and Dr. Meter says 30. Our next contender is Ash.
I'm getting 18.
18.
22%.
Now our good old friend Basswood.
Can't read it.
Oh,
25%.
25%. Our good friend Oak. All right. And yours? And what was yours at?
18%.
So herein lies our challenge, which I mentioned to you guys before. Buying a moisture meter, it's difficult to determine whether it is in fact anywhere near accurate or not, unless you have something to test it against. It's pretty clear that the timber check and the 630 are very closely aligned. Remember that both of them have tolerances. The 630 says that the accuracy should be within plus or minus 2%, and the timber check is within a few percent as well. There's a sheet that comes with the unit that gives you the tolerances or how to read it. The only oddity is the basswood, and I think it may be because the timber check does not measure beyond 25%. So what it's saying is that if you get to the 25% reading, that means that the moisture is 25% or higher. That's where it ends. So they may be closely aligned, but I'm not sure. Either way, at the end of the day, if we were to agree on the assumption that out of 3 separate random meters, if there are 2 meters that are reasonably close to each other and one is an outlier, I'd like to make the assumption that the outlier is clearly inaccurate, and that would be the doctor meter. And given all things equal, the 630 and the timber check are probably reasonably accurate, given that they both tend to be reading in and around the same moisture reading. Something doesn't seem right. 5 data points. I'm pretty sure that you wouldn't call that a statistically accurate or statistically valid sample set. Let's get back to the pile. So we've got 5 random sticks of firewood, which we've tested with all 3 meters, which has given me some interesting results with one anomaly, and that's the basswood. But don't hold me to this, but if I remember correctly, and I might not, because it's been over 40 years since I've been in school, I'm pretty sure that when you do analysis on different things, I believe that kind of the standard was you had to have at least 20 data points to have what they considered a statistically valid sample. Well, I only got 5. So what you see me and a guy doing here is we're going back in. Doesn't matter the species. We're not focusing on so many, maple, so many ash. We're just randomly grabbing different sticks of firewood from different parts of the stack, and we're going to test them all. We're going to get 20 more in addition to the 5 I have, and let's put together the results of that and take a look and see how these meters perform. Because it still begs the question, which meter is accurate? And in fact, how do you know the meter you're using is actually accurate? So here we have it. We've got 25 data points. The red you see in this area map are the readings from the doctor meter. The green is the readings from the TS-630, and the yellow is the reading from the timber check, which is the Canadian-made moisture meter. I've tried to give this to you in a graph because it was a lot of data, but it's pretty clear that even over 25 data points, the green and the yellow follow each other pretty closely and certainly within a couple of percent, which is the tolerance provided by the TS-630 in its manual, plus or minus 2%. This doctor meter is just constantly kind of always reading very, very high compared to the other two, yet the other two tend to follow each other. So again, if I had to draw conclusions in the absence of any other data, I would have to say that the 630 and the timber check are reasonably accurate meters, given that they're both reading generally the same readings all the time. So I would have to say that the doctor meter is definitely not an accurate meter. I also put it out in a second format if it's easier for you folks to see, and this is a line graph. The yellow is the timber check, the green line is the TS-630 by TOPTES, and the red line again is the doctor meter results. And you can see for yourself, once again, even in this format, it's pretty clear that the 630 and the timber check are following each other. So I'd have to say again, they are probably reasonably accurate moisture meters. So let's take a minute and I'll give you some of the main features of this TS-630. It's pretty easy and pretty intuitive to use. Not a lot to it, but it gives you a lot of information. You've got a cover for your pins. The unit's going to come with an extra set of pins, as well as the AAA batteries you need to get it going, and a carrying case. Pretty simple on button. It's going to tell you the relative humidity as well as the temperature outside or in the air in the environment that you're in, whether you're indoors or out. It's handy information, but not stuff I really need. And as I mentioned, it's got a number of different modes depending on whether you're checking for moisture in building materials or various different building materials, as well as firewood. Has a hold feature, so you can hold that reading. Also has a min-max feature, which you can set. That way, if you're taking multiple readings across a number of different sticks in the woodshed, it's going to maintain or remember the one that was wettest and the one that was driest. Simple button on the front for Celsius versus Fahrenheit. And you've got your mode button right here in the bottom right, and that allows you to switch between different types of trees as well as different types of building materials. My favorite feature on this TS-630, the backlit display will change color depending on whether the wood is dry, moderate, or wet. And that changes based on the type of material again. So for example, for A-type wood, which is your maple and your oak in this pile, if the wood is below 15% moisture, your backlit display will be green. If it's between 15 and 24, it's going to turn yellow on you. And if it's over 24, it's going to turn red. So not only will you see the display, you'll see a graphical display of the moisture, but you'll also instantly be able to tell by the color of the backlit display. Unlike the other meter that I showed you, this has a measurement accuracy range. So there's a tolerance, and it states it right here depending on what type of material you're measuring moisture in. In our case, using the timber that we use today, the chart tells me that the measurement should be accurate within plus or minus 2%. And included right in the manual is a very lengthy list of different species or different types of wood and which mode is appropriate for measuring the moisture content in each of them. And a couple of pretty handy features it has is it has an automatic shutoff after 10 minutes if it sits idle, and it also has a low battery indicator, so you know when it's time to switch them up. So hey, at the end of the day, I can't tell you which is most accurate. I can tell you that I like the functions on this TS-630 and the fact that there's so much inside that manual as well as tolerance specifications tells me that they probably put a little more thought than that smaller, cheaper unit I bought a year and a half ago. Hopefully you found the video of help or of interest. Thanks so much for sticking around. I wanted to thank the folks at TOPTES for sending me this unit to test out and to try in front of you folks, but more importantly, they sent me two. One for me and one for you. If you're interested in winning one of these TS-630 moisture meters, just leave a comment below this video and somewhere in your comment, write the words GP Outdoors. In 48 hours, I'll pick a winner using a random comment selector. If you've won, I will reply to your comment asking you to email me at this address that you see below on the screen. But remember, I will not ask you to reply to me in any other way or any other type of communication except to email me at this email address only. Remember, there's a lot of scammers out there on YouTube. I will not ask you for money. So if you have someone which you think is me, asking you to either text you at a number, use WhatsApp or any other type of communication, or most importantly, attempts to tell you to pay for shipping or to provide money or some kind of a payment, it's not me, my friends. I will never ask you for money. So hey, that's a wrap from the Woodstack. Thanks so much for sticking around today. I hope you found it informative, if nothing else. 3 different meters at different price points that claim to do the same job. I believe we have a reasonably accurate conclusion based on the assumption that if there is some pattern between at least 2 of them, that it's highly likely that the outlier, the one that's less accurate, is the one that doesn't agree. But again, you could argue that assumption. What I'd love to know is, especially if you have a YouTube channel or just at home you have your own moisture meter, I'd love to know in the comments what brand of meter you're using or what model, and tell me if it's accurate. And if you do believe it to be accurate, I'd love to hear how you know or how you've proven it to be accurate. Have a wonderful week with your families. Please be kind to one another, and I'll see you again right here. I'm Gord Potter, and you've been watching GP Outdoors. Cheers.